With the NHL trade deadline approaching, what type of players should these Sharks try to acquire? I look at 6 potential players that the Sharks should try to add during the trade deadline. So all that and more on today's episode.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Probably part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch this on YouTube as well. And on today's episode, we're going to be digging into the trade deadline, but guys, type of players that the Sharks should be looking to acquire to try to kind of restock not only the pipeline, but kind of guys who are in the same vein as, like an Alexander Barabanov or Jacob Peterson, guys who maybe don't fit other teams' prospect pools, or guys who maybe the Sharks can kind of pry away that would be able to kind of contribute on San Jose, kind of give them a chance to play. So we're going to be looking at 2 forwards, 2 goalies, and 2 defensemen. But before we get to all that, I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. You need to place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So this exercise kind of was suggested to me, and I was trying to think of we've kind of seen with Mike Grier, right? Wanting to get guys who are close to being NHL ready. Jacob Peterson, who I know is spending most of the year in the AHL this year, but guys like Nikita Hochuk, Ty Emberson, who the Sharks claimed off waivers, guys who are closer to contributing than kind of than just picking draft picks, right? And kind of having to play that weight game, right? And we know the Sharks kind of want to start competing again here in the next couple of seasons. So trying to look at guys who are young enough to still be assets to kind of what they're building right now. So we're going to start with 2 forwards, then we'll get to 2 defensemen, and then that we'll finish up with a couple goalies here. And I'm going to kind of go through the guys. I'm going to make the case for why it would make sense for their team to kind of move on from them. And then, of course, the case of why it wouldn't make sense. And I don't expect any of these to happen. If the Sharks pick one, if one of these guys ends up in San Jose, you're never going to hear the end of it from me. But I wanted to kind of look at, these are some the types of players that the Sharks should be looking to acquire if they do choose so. So we'll start with our good friend Kyle, who one of his favorite prospects that the Sharks did not draft, Aatu Raty, 21-year-old forward, 6'2", 287 pounds, was originally drafted by the New York Islanders in the second round, but traded to Vancouver. He's been playing this season with the Vancouver Canucks in the AHL. In 38 games, he has 8 goals, 15 assists with 54 shots on goal. You're going to kind of notice a theme with a lot of these players that I'll be kind of talking about. But Aatu Raty was, if you go back way before that draft, we talked about him with our good friend Will Scouch, and how he was at one point a potential top 10, top 5, even a potential first overall pick conversation, but struggled, picked in the second round. Still very, very talented player. I think he, given and put in San Jose, would have an opportunity to flourish because there's just a lot of potential open jobs. The reason why it would make sense for Vancouver, at least, to trade him is Aatu Raty ever going to get at least a middle 6 opportunity with the Canucks, right? Looking at the Canucks, who have been one of the kind of big stories of the season this year and their type of play, and it's like they're getting actual contribution or everything's kind of clicking for them, right? You have Quinn Hughes, who's, potential Norris Trophy candidate, Elias Peterson, who's just like having an absolute superstar season. You have Brock Besser, JT Miller. You have all these guys playing well. Like it's finally come together for Vancouver, right? If they're looking to upgrade with more NHL caliber talent, if the Sharks want to trade, Mario Ferraro, whoever, right? They might have to look at parting with one of these guys, and the Sharks should try to acquire a guy like Aatu Raty. Why does it make sense for Vancouver? You're going to have to start paying a lot of these guys. I know Quinn Hughes is under contract for the next several years at his what's looking like a steal at $7.8 million. But Elias Peterson, right, he is due for a massive contract extension at the end of the season that could make him the highest paid player in the NHL. Brock Besser's got one more year on his deal. They have a lot of guys that they're going to have to start kind of paying here soon, and having cheap contracts for good players like Aatu Raty, you kind of have to kind of fill the void and fill the edges with guys like that. So that's why it doesn't make sense for them. But again, if you're the Sharks, maybe you're trading an NHL caliber player who can help your team now. Give me back Aatu Raty, who's going to be able to help the Sharks here in the future. So again, with none of these, I don't see any of these happening, but these are, again, the types of players. So another actually in division guy, well, that would be one Samuel Fagemo. So Samuel Fagemo, right now he's up on the LA Kings, but he spent the majority of his season with the Ontario Reign. He's 23, so he's a little bit older. Yes, the 23-year-old is old. 6 foot, 203 pounds. 2019 second round pick. In 24 games in the AHL, he has 20 goals, 13 assists with 87 shots on goal. He's pretty good. He was put on waivers this year. If you remember, Nashville claimed him. Nashville put him on waivers. LA claimed him back. Says why they could put him down in the AHL. And you're probably saying, well, JD, why didn't the Sharks just claim him for free if you didn't want to do that? If you just wanted him. Yes, you could always just claim him for free, but you have to remember the Sharks contracts, like how many contracts that the Sharks have actually on, like you can only have so many contracts. And the Sharks right now are at 49 out of 50 contracts, right? So you need to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room, especially when they're going into the trade deadline, where if you want to acquire a player or make a big splash deal and you need to kind of take on more contracts or take on bad contracts, et cetera, et cetera, it just gives you a little bit more wiggle room. So that's why maybe not picking him up at the time didn't make sense. But Fagemo, the dude can shoot. He's kind of has that little bit of that kind of powered forward game to him, especially he's a big size guy, but he can shoot. And if you watch any Reign versus CUDA games, he has absolutely destroyed the CUDA time in and time again. Why would it make sense? You have the LA Kings who are in a very much win now type, right? You've kind of been building. They have a good blend of young guys and kind of older guys. But if you look at their lineup, he kind of has been passed by a lot of players, right? And maybe you can, if you're LA, you can trade him, especially if you want to, I don't know, bolster up your goaltending. A guy like Capo Kakinen, whoever, right? You can kind of trade him, get someone who can a little bit more NHL ready, get someone who can kind of help your team right now. And Fagemo, again, a lot of their guys, you have Quentin Byfield, right, who's a second overall pick. Keliev, you have Alexei Lafayette. They have a lot of young guys who are kind of outperforming Fagemo right now. So for them, maybe to give up one of these young guys to help get back an NHL ready guy. And Fagemo is kind of the older, and some of these guys I think are a little bit better than him, right? Byfield, for example, is way better than, but that type of situation where you give up one of these guys who could still be an asset for another team to try to help you get yourself to try to win a cup this year. Why it doesn't make sense. Again, is LA going to trade in the division? I think in something like this, you would, especially if maybe they're getting the better player back. But again, are you going to give up on a guy who has been very helpful? And maybe he's just that one more year away from kind of really being a contributor, almost like Fabian Zetterlund, right? This last year, a lot of people were like, I don't know about Fabian Zetterlund. And then what Fabian Zetterlund would be, a middle six, at least forward on most, most every team. So he could be getting ready to have that kind of breakout season here really soon. So we'll get over to the defensemen here and then check on the goalies at the end of the show. So we'll do that here in just 1 second. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed's your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors. According to Indeed data, with a matching engine, helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. I know the NFL regular season's over, and we're almost to the big game, but there's still time to get on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. You place a $5 bet. There's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. I really like Brandon Ayuk touchdown with the Niners win. I think the Detroit secondary can be had. And I think Brandon Ayuk, especially if Deebo Samuel is out, I think Ayuk has himself a really nice day. So I think that parlay right there is a winner. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, so let's get to some of the defensemen. We know Mike Grier has been very aggressive trying to kind of overhaul this blue line. Shakir Mukhamadulin's gotten recalled and is expected to make his debut. Hopefully he makes his debut on Saturday. I think it's still a little in the air, but I would expect him to play on Saturday, right? You don't recall a guy like Mukhamadullin to not play him, right? Especially, I would just if you're not going to play him, just let him keep playing on the Barracuda. But if Mukhamadullin, hopefully Mukhamadullin plays. But if you want to continue to add to your pipeline, here's a couple guys that I would be very, very interested in. I'm going to start with one, Jack Thompson, the 21-year-old right-handed defenseman picked by the Tampa Bay Lightning in the 2020 draft in the third round. 6'1", 185 pounds. He's played 36 games, has 4 goals, 23 assists with 91 shots on goal in the AHL. He's also played one NHL game this year. So the Sharks continue to add pieces to their blue line, guys who are going to be NHL ready here soon. And, I think the reason why it makes sense, looking at the Lightning, right? Still, I know the season's been a little bit tough, but they're still very much in a win now role or win now mode. And Jack Thompson's probably not going to get a real top 4 offensive role with Victor Hedman and Sergachev out playing. I know Sergachev has been hurt for most of the year, and they've been kind of making do without it, but he's going to be back, right? And he's there long term. He just signed a, massive deal. He's going to be there through 27-28. I know Victor Hedman maybe only has a couple years, but he's still 33 and he's still one of your best players in franchise history. I wouldn't be surprised if Hedman still gets another deal with the Lightning, right? And this team, again, they're still trying to win games, and I don't know if Jack Thompson is, his future is like to kind of get the best out of him, playing top 4 minutes. I think his pathway is kind of blocked, if that makes sense. So, and the reason why it doesn't make sense, again, this team is still kind of cap struck. They're still cap tight for the next couple seasons. I think that going into next year, they got $10 million with 16 guys, $10 million of free space with 16 guys kind of tied up. So you're going to have to try to fill in the roster with cheap contracts, and a guy like Jack Thompson, who's going to be cost controlled for the next few years, makes sense for them to not move along with him, even if he does play, kind of bottom pairing minutes. So that's, I think, the reason why you would not want they would not want him. But again, if you can get a guy who can help you win right now, something you want to, as a team that still is still in their Stanley Cup window. I think that's a reason why they would potentially move on to him, especially if they can get a player back who can help them win right now. So who that is, if they want to add some offense, you could look at a guy like Anthony Duclair. I think Anthony Duclair playing in their, middle six would just light it up, as we saw when he played with Florida. So again, and I know Tampa, how's their picks? And they don't have a lot of picks because they traded them all last year. So they have a 3rd round pick this year. So they might have to give up a prospect to get a player back type of situation. So, all right, let's look at another defenseman. Topi Niemelä, the 21-year-old was picked by the Toronto Maple Leafs, 6 foot, 179 pounds. He's been playing with the Toronto Marlies in the AHL, 2020 3rd round pick as well. 34 games, 6 goals, 16 assists, 53 shots on goal. And I know Will Scouch, one of Will Scouch's favorite players in that draft, absolute offensive dynamo. Again, another right-handed shot that the Sharks continue to add to their prospect pool. He's still under contract for the next couple season, or this season and next season. So plenty of, Sharks would have him, give him a little bit of, be able to start playing him here sooner rather than later. Why it makes sense, right? Maple Leafs need a good cheap goalie. Hello. If you want to trade either Mackenzie Blackwood or if you want to trade Capo Kakinen, and they don't draft picks. Again, kind of the same situation as Tampa, where they have a 1st round pick this year, but they don't have like their 2nd round picks for the next couple of years. They have a lot of like late round picks. So you might have to get a good player, you might have to give up on a solid prospect and Topi Niemelä. Why it doesn't make sense, the Maple Leafs have 3 defensemen actually under contract for next year. So they would probably are kind of maybe counting on him to take a step and play in the NHL. They have a couple guys who are RFAs so they can re-sign, they're going to need good young players on cheap contracts to help kind of build around when you have 4 players who are making over $10 million. And Nylander, Marner, Tavares, and then Austin Matthews. So they're going to need good, young, cheap contracts. But again, it feels like it's been forever. We've been waiting for the Maple Leafs to kind of make their run. So maybe if they want a guy like Mario Ferraro, who can help solidify the blue line, wouldn't have to kind of play the same role. I think he'd play more of a complementary role to his style, and especially with the players that they have. Or if they wanted to upgrade their goaltending situation, which has been really hit or miss, and they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. I mean, they've been having to play Martin Jones a bunch. I know Wall's supposed to be back at some point, but just adding another veteran-ish, I guess, in Capo Kakinen, like that would make a lot of sense. And for the Sharks, you're getting another kind of crack at a defenseman who can be a top 4 type of player for you as you continue to kind of rebuild the defensive pipeline. So again, do I expect any of these to happen? No. But these are the types of players you want to try to find, guys who maybe don't fit other teams' timelines, or where maybe there's just kind of too many guys in front of them that they're really realistically not going to get a chance to play NHL minutes here sooner rather than later. You want to try to take advantage of that. So please don't I don't need teams. I don't need Maple Leafs fans or whoever being like, you're an idiot. I got too much of that last year. And it's Topi Niemelä. So anyway, we'll talk about some goaltenders here and which guys I would kind of, again, take a look at as the Sharks try to find an answer in goal here in just 1 minute. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, so let's finish up with a couple goaltenders. And we know the Sharks goaltending pipeline has been, we're still looking for kind of that goaltender of the future. And what I'm doing in this is just taking cracks on guys who, again, are kind of maybe getting squeezed out, because if you look at these teams' goaltending situations or kind of their prospect pipeline, they have other guys who they think are going to be kind of the answers, or they have established superstar type guys who are probably going to be in the crease for a very, very long time. So we're going to start with goalie Carter Garland. He's 22 years old, 6'5", 190 pounds, playing for Colgate in the NCAA. He was a 2019 7th-round pick by the Detroit Red Wings. This year, he has 19 games, 909 save percentage, 287 goals against average. Looking at his NHL probabilities, they've been kind of floating. If you Byron Bader's model, he's been kind of floating at 34 to 20, kind of right anywhere between 39 and 28%, and it has dipped a little bit right now. But a guy who I think, again, you never know with goaltenders, like the 7th-round pick. It's right. You see goaltenders pop all the time. Why I think he makes sense for why the Red Wings would be willing to kind of part ways with him. They've drafted Kosa and Augustine in the past couple drafts, and those are going to probably be Sebastian Kosa, they drafted in the first round. Trey Augustine, they drafted last year. Those guys look to be the future of in the Red Wings net. Augustine has looked awesome in college. If you listen to our draft profile on Levzhinov, we talked about Augustine and why, that Michigan State could be primed to make a run in next year as a potential national championship. Kosa has been kind of working his way through. I think he's already in the AHL now. These are guys who are going to be your long-term answers in net. So where does that kind of leave a guy like Gylander? Why you don't is one, and this is going to be the same answer for both, is goalies are kind of so random, and you never know which one of these guys pop and which one of these guys can just not be it. And I think for the Red Wings, especially a team who's starting to kind of contend, but they're not really contending yet, right? They're you can see maybe their potential playoff team this year. They might be like they're on their way up, but none of these guys are kind of ready to contribute right now. You never know. Again, they haven't seen Augustine and and Kosa be the guy yet. So I think maybe you just kind of continue to diversify your bonds, as Wu-Tang Clan once said, and wait to see which one of these guys actually works out before you start to kind of trade them. But if again, you never know. Maybe the Sharks sling a late round pick for Gylander. You kind of go from there. So next on the list of the last guy, would be one Hugo Ollas, 21-year-old. Oh, one more thing too. Sorry, going back. Gylander, though, one thing that kind of the Red Wings have until August to decide to sign him. So if they don't think he's going to be it, or maybe it's Henry Thrun type of situation where he's just like looking and be like, look, I see what's coming or what's here already. I'm not going to get a real opportunity to kind of be the guy. Trade me somewheres. And that could always be a situation. Again, don't know the guy, never met him. Haven't heard anything like this. I'm just speculating. But that could be a thing where if he's like, there's not a chance for me to be the guy here, trade me to a team that doesn't have an answer in goalie. Sharks don't have an answer in goalie. So they could sign him. He could be playing, ECHL or in the AHL next year. So anyway, sorry. Back to Hugo Ollas, 21-year-old, 6'8", 238-pound goalie, was a 2027 round pick by the New York Rangers, playing in Merrimack College in the NCAA. 11 games this year, 902 save percentage, 303 goals against. His stats from Byron Bader, been solid. He's kind of in that 29 to 36 percentile. He's been kind of getting a little bit better and better every year. For him, some of his comps, Caden Primo, Magnus Krona, Jack Campbell. So, and again, 6'8", and you know how Mike Grier loves some big goalies. So why I think it makes sense for the Rangers to potentially trade him if they're looking to add more scoring depth and a guy like Anthony Duclair, or a guy like Alexander Barabanov. And they have some guy named Igor Shesterkin who's going to be there for a while. Like Igor Shesterkin's amazing. And it would be weird for them to kind of, again, trying to trade goalies, et cetera, especially for a team that is trying to win now. They've been kind of building and building and building. And it's very much starting to get to the win now phase. And I think if the Sharks trade a guy like Anthony Duclair, who can kind of help out in their middle six, add some scoring depth, it's not going to cost them much in their cap, because cap-wise, they're okay-ish right now. They could fit in, a guy like Anthony Duclair. And if the Sharks, they're okay also with their picks. They don't have their third round this year. Next year, they don't have their second or third round or fourth round. So they could be looking at, like, now's the time to try to kind of make the push in, because you're going to be hitting caps, running out of picks. And so, and again, kind of the reason why it doesn't make sense, like, teams don't like to give up goalie prospects. And especially for a guy who's kind of playing in college. He does have 2 years. So he would potentially go back to school next year, and then the Sharks or the Rangers, whoever has him, have until August 2025 to sign him. So he can still kind of marinate for a little bit. And we know, I think with goalies, just letting them marinate and not trying to rush them makes the most amount of sense. So there's those 6 players who I would look, at least inquire, if you're going to be trying to trade some of your NHL players. The Sharks are more than likely expected to do. So these are guys who I think can come in, contribute to San Jose sooner rather than later, or give you some more options in the goaltending department as the Sharks try to figure out their goaltending. I still think the Sharks are going to pick a goalie in this draft, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if that Devils pick, which is, if they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, is going to be a second round pick. I wouldn't be surprised if that pick is used on a goaltender. I know Mike Grier wanted to pick one last year. Did not happen, but again, plenty of time to dig into that. So these are the type of guys, though, I would, if I was the San Jose Sharks, you wanted to try to add some guys who are either kind of on the verge of being NHL ready or going to be NHL ready here soon. These are some guys. So we'll be back Monday, hopefully to discuss Shakir Mukhamadulin's NHL debut. I will be at the game. So if you're there, I'll be there. If you see me, come say hi. I'll be with my boys. Very excited for Pride Day. It's gonna be a good time on Saturday afternoon. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube. We'll break down that game, talk about the Barracudas weekend. Get you guys in the next week. We got kind of a nice little sprint here until the AHL All-Star, the NHL All-Star deadline or whatever, NHL All-Stars kind of break. And then we got some time where we can kind of dig into some fun stuff. So make sure you guys are following along for that. You can also follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Until Monday. Bye, friends.